Canelo beats Edgar Berlanga by unanimous decision. Berlanga got dropped. The referee got dropped. The only person who didn't get dropped was Canelo. This is why Canelo is the king of the division and also the king of boxing at the moment. He's just beating all these young, undefeated fighters. Yes, he's not fighting the fighters everyone wants him to fight, but people want him to fight a lot of different fighters. And the fighters he's fighting, he's beating. And he's not just beating these young fighters, he's also knocking them down in the fights. Fighters like Munguia, who had never been knocked down, he knocks him down. Berlanga, he has been knocked down before, but again, he knocks him down. Berlanga's first 16 fights come via first round KO, which is a very impressive record and shows that this guy has power. Okay, let's do this. Let's go through and see how many world title fights Canelo's actually had, because this is impressive and this is just, again, highlighting his career and how good he is and how much he's achieved already in his career at 34 years of age. 24 world title fights he's had. That's just world title fights. Berlanga had only had 22 fights all up. So Canelo had 2 more fights in a world championship fight than Berlanga had fights. That's how impressive Canelo's record is. But there's one thing with Canelo is that he has never, ever officially been knocked down. And I keep thinking to myself when these fighters come up, the only shot they have, especially these strong, powerful young fighters, I think to myself, they have a shot. They have a puncher's chance to possibly knock Canelo out, but not really, because he's never even been officially knocked down. How do you knock a guy out who's never ever officially been knocked down? He is one tough Mexican. So realistically, the only way you're going to beat him, and the only way he has been beaten, is on the scorecards. But even then, that's a tough feat, because he is defensively sound and he's also offensively sound as well. And even beating him on the scorecards is a tough task, because he is defensively and offensively hard to beat. After seeing this fight, I think that Crawford doesn't have a chance. I just don't think he has the tools in his arsenal to be able to beat Canelo. Canelo's tough, Canelo's very smart, Canelo's ring IQ is very high. Canelo has elite ring IQ. So although Crawford is a very, very good fighter, him moving up 2 weight classes to take on Canelo, I just don't see him winning. For starters, if you're going to move up 2 weight classes, when you do move up a weight class, normally you'll take on someone that's not Canelo, someone that is not the top level of that division. If you're going up 1 weight class, then yes, fair enough, like Crawford did in his previous fight, taking on a world champion. A world champion, maybe not the top of the division, but definitely still a world champion. Better amateur pedigree, not as much experience in the professional game, but still had a good amateur pedigree which was displayed. But Madrimov is a good fighter regardless of how many pro fights he's had. He still obviously needs to gain more experience in the pro rankings, but he was a world champion. And a lot of that was accounted to the fact that he had a good amateur career, and that let him progress through the pro ranks fast. So he was a good challenge for Crawford. However, Crawford has only just moved up to that weight division, and him having to move up another 2 weight divisions and fighting not just the elite of that weight division, of the super middleweight division, but pretty much the elite in boxing. One of the pound for pound bests in boxing. This game is all about the advantages, and when you get to that top level, it's all about the advantages that you have over your opponent. And Canelo will have a massive advantage over Crawford if he moves up 2 weight divisions. Even though they're both in the argument for pound fighters, Crawford's the one that has to give up the advantage. And the advantage of not being at that weight class, moving into that weight class. So I think it's too much of an ask for Crawford to be able to win if he does fight Canelo. which I don't think is going to happen at this point in time. And Turkey Al-Sheikh is not doing the fight any favors, constantly pushing it and getting upset because Canelo wanted to focus on the fight that he had coming up, and now Canelo just doesn't even want to talk about it.
Terrence Crawford was Turkey Al-Sheikh at the other event across town, put out an open challenge to you on the internet with Turkey Al-Sheikh calling you out. What's your response to Terrence Crawford's call out tonight?
No comment.
Doesn't want to discuss it at all. I think he's just fed up, had enough, and he just sees it as, I don't need you, you need me. So I don't think this fight's going to happen. And if it did happen, I just think Canelo is just going to dominate and win. And it would potentially even be a knockout for Canelo against Crawford. But that's just the way I see it now after all these fights that Canelo's had and how he's just dominating his division. So the only way that Crawford would be able to win it is via points. I mean, you're talking Canelo, a guy who's had 66 fights and never ever officially been knocked down. If that's not impressive, what is? People can argue, people can complain about Canelo not fighting fighters that they want him to fight, but we're witnessing a legend of the sport at the moment. So just lap it up while he's still fighting, take in the fights, appreciate the fighter while he's still fighting, because he's going to be put down as one of the greats. Is he dodging David Benavidez? Yes, he is. Will he fight David Benavidez? I hope so. He needs to. I don't know if he's dodging him because he wants to build up the fight and make it a huge payday, because that's the fight that everyone keeps pointing to, and as it gets held off more and more, it's getting bigger and bigger. So whether that is a tactic from Canelo for it to be bigger before he takes that risk against David Benavidez, I don't know. But if it is, it's working. But I do think he needs to fight David Benavidez before he finishes up in the sport. And there are other big fights for him to have as well, especially if he moves up to the light heavyweight division and takes on Bivol again. That would be an interesting fight. Although Bivol won the first fight, I think that would still be an interesting fight, and people would still be interested in seeing a rematch between them two, and how Canelo would change his tactics to beat Bivol, if he could beat Bivol. And I think at the moment, Canelo, the way he's going and the level that he's at, I honestly think that he beats David Benavidez. I think David Benavidez can win, but I would have Canelo as the favorite in that fight. However, this fight has to happen because people want to see what the result will be. So Canelo, David Benavidez, make it happen. It's going to be a huge fight already. How much bigger do you want it? Fighters like Canelo will fight these legacy fights. They'll fight these fights that they want to have. They'll tick people off the list that they want ticked off the list. But there's a point in your career you have to give the fans what they want. You have to give the fans the big fight that they want, so the fans don't look back later on and say, I wish this fight happened, or I wish this fight happened sooner. So I think the time is now for this fight to happen. It's big enough. It's not going to get much bigger than it already is, because it is the one that has to be next for Canelo. There's not many more people in the division he can keep on taking on. The list is getting smaller and smaller, so he's either got to go up and face Benavidez, or stay at the weight division he's at and face Benavidez, or go up and face Bivol, or take on Crawford, go down and fight Crawford, let Crawford come up and fight him. But his list is reducing. Although more and more people want to fight him, the list of fighters that people want him, the fans want him to see, is getting smaller and smaller. And David Benavidez is at the top of that list. Regardless of who that name is, who he fights next, I'll be watching it, because I'm just appreciating Canelo at the peak of his career. And this is definitely someone that's going to go down in history as a legendary fighter. And let's just hope he goes down as a legendary fighter who fought David Benavidez. Anyway, that's all I got. That's my thoughts. That's my 2 cents. Until next time, peace out.